Hey guys, it's Lisa here from GoKidsMinds.com, and today I wanted to expand on last week talking about languages, just getting the basics of language when we're talking with our children and from our children's perspective. Today I wanted to look at rules. So when we're making house rules or classroom rules, the language that we're using in the rules is going to dictate how our kids understand those rules. And one really big important factor, if I could drive home to every single parent, teacher, educator everywhere, is that the words that we're saying when we're saying things to kids, there's actually, it's actually a scientific fact that they can't hear all of the sentence straight away. So we all know that sometimes they hear things and it takes a little delay before they can understand and respond, but they actually don't always retain all of the words, but they do retain the last word or two in a sentence. So if you're saying to them, don't run, they don't register don't. They only hear run. If you say, I don't know, I can't think of anything else. That's a big one. Don't run, don't be mean to other kids, no fighting, those sorts of things. All they hear is be mean to other kids, fighting. So they're only registering that last word. They don't register the other part of it where you're telling them not to do that thing. So one thing that I can really recommend, we've done it in our house, it completely changed things. And it took a change within the kids to have to do it. And it came from teaching background. It's something I did with the classroom, and it helped at the start of the year to change the kids' mindset around the language that we're going to be using in the class moving forward. So they're used to seeing don't run, don't talk back, don't touch other kids. You might see in some classrooms now they'll have keep your hands to yourself, those sorts of things. So it changes things around a little bit, but a lot of the time it's don't. So what I do with our kids at home, and that came from doing it in the classroom, at the start of a class year, I'll sit down with the kids and go, okay, we're going to make some class rules. And the reason we do this is because it sets our expectations for the class. And that means that, you've got a list of things that you need to do in order for me to give you respect. And then I also need to follow these rules in order to have your respect. So it gives that, that common ground where they're like, oh, it's not just about me respecting her, but also about her respecting me. And then we go into rules, and I always let them choose the rules. And then we go, okay, that's what we don't want you to do. So what's the opposite of that? What do I want you to do? Or what is it that you want to be doing instead? So if the first rule is almost always don't run, it doesn't matter if you're doing it at home or if you're doing it at school, it's almost always the first rule, don't run in the classroom, or don't run in the house. So instead of it being don't run, what is it that we want? Well, I don't know, miss, no one's ever asked this before. So, my kids have heard it a lot of times before, because I don't say, I wouldn't usually say don't run in the house. I say walk. And it's one word, and that's it. That's what I want, and that's the word, walk in the house. So they know that that's the first rule side of things. But when you're teaching it to the kids, or you're helping them to recreate their rules in a positive way, then you need to be able to model that. Okay, I hear what you're saying and I agree, but what's the action we do want you to take? So instead of don't run, it's walk inside. Instead of no fighting, it might be kind to others. Instead of no shouting across the room, it could be use your quiet voice. So you'll see some of these in classrooms already, but it's really important when you're making those rules with the kids that you do it as a joint effort, so they feel like they're a part of it, but also that you pick up some of that language and you're able to flip it around. And that way, when it sits on that wall for 12 months, you can point over to, okay, well, hang on a second. Let's have a look over at the rules here. What are the rules? Are we breaking any of those? What can we do better? Those sorts of things. And I will always let the kids make their own consequences as well. So as a group, they make consequences. Because if they're not adhering to the rules, then there's going to be a consequence for that action. And oftentimes you'll find that the kids consequences are far harsher than you would actually create a consequence yourself. So our house rules, the kids made the consequences, and the first one was timeout. So they had timeout for 5 minutes. The second one was that they needed to dust the house for 1 hour. I could tell you that they only did that twice, and then they learnt that they don't want to get to consequence number 2 of breaking the rules. And then the third time's no screen time for a day. And I mean, my kids, they don't always get screen time for the day. It's usually on the weekend. So that would mean then no screen time on that weekend day. So, or if it's during the week, it might be no TV. Sometimes I take away even TV viewing if that's where we're at. So depending on the kids, depending on the age, as a classroom, if they're the younger grades, I would do that together with the group and make a class set of rules. Once they're getting up to sort of year 5, 6, 7, 8, those sorts of grades, then we have the same base rules, but their consequences are different. And I make them sign off on it and put a date. It's a contract. So, they'll put the rules, they put the consequences. I promise to adhere to these rules, signed, their signature, date, their date. And then that becomes their contract. And I laminate those. And then when something goes wrong and, oh, hang on, we've broken the rule. Okay, go and get out your rule card and let's have a look at what your consequences were. And then I implement separate consequences for each child. And so they're going to learn, because most of the time they've put tougher rules on themselves than I would have. They learn pretty quickly that they don't want to hit those consequences. And as it turns out, then we have a happier, more cohesive classroom or house. And it also means then that they're showing me respect, and I'm able to then show them respect and let things not slip a little, but I guess be kinder rather than being strict and firm at the start, which I normally would be. So those are the things that I would recommend. So again, that is making sure we turn the language around from the negative into a positive, remembering kids only really hear the last word. So if you're going to say don't run versus walk, or walk inside, they will hear that's the walk inside. They won't necessarily hear the don't run, and that's why you'll often see kids running after you've said don't run. So we're going to turn the negatives into positives. We're going to let the kids choose the rules themselves and work together with them to remold them into a positive. And the last thing is that they make their own consequences as well. In the younger age groups, I would do the consequences with them. As they get older, I might model a few, but I let them choose their own personal consequences and they sign a contract on that, and we use that for the year. So those are my tips. Really great for helping the language. You'll see it changing in the classroom, and the rules will change to things like, show respect to each other and be nice and use a kind voice and those sorts of things. So that's it for me, Lisa at growkidsminds.com. We're on all social media channels. Again, if you haven't downloaded our resource guide for growth mindset resources, you can find that at growkidsminds.com/resources. And it's a free list of all different types of resources, mostly free. There's a few books and things if you want to buy books you can pay for. So that's it for me. I'll see you next week.